Hello, welcome to American Baker in Germany. I'm Michelle, and today we are making one of my recipes. This is my recipe for Swiss Meringue Buttercream. I can't even tell you how much I love this recipe. I got the recipe and the instructions from a blog called Natasha's Kitchen. Natasha's Kitchen is amazing. Go ahead and check it out. It has so many amazing recipes and suggestions, and also in this recipe there's a lot of troubleshooting. If you're having trouble, check out the blog, and she will walk you through some of the problems that and how to resolve them. It's super smooth. Creamy is like the word that I can think of to describe it. It's amazing. It's basically the consistency of whipped cream, only more stable, because whipped cream's super soft and drips everywhere. This doesn't drip everywhere. It just holds its shape, but it has that super smooth and creamy texture. I love this buttercream. Super excited to show this to you today, so let's get started. Alright, we'll start out with our ingredients. Buttercream doesn't have tons of ingredients. That's the good news. So, we have butter, shockingly enough. This calls for 1.5 cups of butter. These packages of butter are about 250 grams is about a cup each. So I need 1.5 of those cut into about 1 tablespoon chunks. And I will show you that later, but I won't need it at the beginning. As the first stages, I will need 7 egg whites. That's what that is. So that I've already separated my eggs. And 2 cups of sugar. That's about 400 grams, give or take. I need a little bit of salt, and you have 2 alternative ways I'm going to show you today. Either you can put in about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, or you can use 2 packages of vanilla sugar. If you choose to use the vanilla extract, you put it in at the end with the salt. If you choose to use the vanilla sugar, put it in with the sugar at the beginning. So I'm going to show you how I put that together. Another things we're going to need is a glass or a metal bowl. I'm using glass today so that you can see what I'm doing inside. And you will need a pot. And it can be any pot as long as it's around the same size as your bowl, because then it will allow it to get the most contact with the hot water. What we're going to do is make a double boiler system so that it doesn't cook the eggs, but it does heat them. And you definitely need a whisk. You can whisk everything together, and you need a spatula. Here's my spatula, mit Liebe gebacken, baked with love. And you need a mixer. Now, I do have a stand mixer actually, but it has a couple of special things you have to make sure to follow when you're making Swiss Meringue Buttercream. So I have chosen today to show you how to make it with a hand mixer. Also, I feel like most people have a hand mixer and not everyone has a stand mixer. So I felt like that would be more universal. So let's put it all together. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is put my egg whites, all 7 of them. Does take a lot of eggs. All of my sugar. And my vanilla sugar. I'm going to use vanilla sugar because it's significantly cheaper than vanilla extract. But if you do choose to use it, you put it in with your sugar so that it dissolves properly. And I mix it up. Mix it up with the whisk. Now after I'm finished mixing this together, I will show you the consistency, and then I'm going to heat it up in a double boiler system over the stove on the pot. Now I could show you that part, but first of all it's boring. Second of all, you have to look at my kitchen. And we don't want either one of that, and it doesn't really show you anything I couldn't show you afterwards. So I'm going to show you the consistency of what it looks like when the eggs are cold. And then once I've heated it up to the right temperature, then I will show you what that looks like. So this is normal egg whites and sugar mixed together, and what it looks like. You can see it's very, very thick. You see how thick that is? And you can practically see the grains sticking to the side of the bowl. I hope that shows up on camera, but you can solidly see grains, and this is extremely thick. You can see it just sticking to that whisk. There you go. So I'm going to heat this up over a double boiler and show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, so this is what it looks like after it's been heated. There we go. Now, notice, first of all, the consistency. It's really, really runny. It just falls right off the spatula or the scraper. And look at the edge of the bowl. You don't see any more grains. And the top also will sometimes get a little bit frothy. So that's why this white is there. Now, I'm not panicking about doing the next step immediately. It's okay to let it cool down a little bit before you do. So let me tell you a little bit about Swiss Meringue Buttercream. That would probably be interesting. The number one question that people have is it safe to eat because it contains raw eggs? First of all, look at this. These eggs are not raw anymore. So even though they're not cooked, you do not want to cook your eggs. You should not have chunks in them anywhere. If you do, you definitely heated it too hot. Second of all, though, is that at this point, even though it's not cooked all the way through, thank goodness, it is heated up to a point where it kills all of the bacteria. It is perfectly safe to eat, even for pregnant women who are not allowed to eat raw eggs. Okay, so feel free to go ahead and serve this even for a baby shower or something like that. I have before. And another thing about it is temperature is very, very important in Swiss Meringue Buttercream. So this mixture right here is very hot to the touch. When it's over the double boiler, even if you can't find any more grains and the consistency looks pretty good, if you touch it and it still feels like body temperature, it's too cool. It should feel hot to the touch. You should touch it and say, oh, that's getting really pretty hot. So if that's not the case, then it needs to keep heating. I hope that helps a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to whip it. We're going to whip it to within an inch of its life, basically. And at that point, we're going to whip it until it completely whips up into a meringue. That's called Swiss meringue. And once the bowl is completely cool to the touch, it should be no warmer than room temperature. Okay, room temperature is what we're going for. Right now it's quite hot to the touch. I can touch it, but just for a short time. And then once it's completely cool, we are going to add our butter 1 tablespoon at a time. Now this takes forever. A lot of other buttercreams go significantly faster. This is probably the number one reason why people don't always make Swiss Meringue Buttercream, and I'm guilty of this as well. If I don't have the time, then I'm not going to make it. Swiss Meringue Buttercream, you just count on it, takes at least half an hour. It can even take longer. So I'm going to cut up my butter into chunks and get it ready, and then I'm going to go ahead and whip up my egg whites to be meringue. Isn't that beautiful? I love this so much. This is Swiss meringue. So welcome to the world of Swiss meringue. Okay, so my Swiss meringue is now cooled. I'm touching on the side of the bowl and it's pretty cool. Feels room temperature to me. Now what is important is to really wait for it to get down to room temperature. If you put your butter in too early, then you will end up with soup. And nobody wants a frosting soup. So you have to absolutely wait until it is cool and is no longer giving off heat. Otherwise it will melt your butter. So here's my butter. Okay. Now Swiss meringue by itself is really delicious. But make it into buttercream and it holds its form as well. So you can see that it kind of like drips down right here. It's fairly similar to 7-minute frosting. So that's what that looks like, but it's kind of like marshmallow fluff almost. See that? It does not hold its form yet. The butter will give it a little more stability. That's kind of the point. So I'm going to add it 1 tablespoon at a time. Right, I'm making a huge mess, but I've now put in all of my butter and it looks like this. So don't freak out if that happens to you. It happens fairly common. It's a really, really common thing to happen. Another thing that can happen is that it might look like your eggs and your butter are separating. It has kind of a chunky look. If that happens, either of those things, what you basically do is keep beating. Now another thing about this is that there is a lot of beating involved, which can be hard on your hand and your arm, your shoulder, if you have problems with those parts of your body, or if you just straight up need a break. Go ahead and take a break. This is not something you absolutely have to do in one go. So if you need a break, you take it, especially if you're using a hand mixer like I am today. That's why most people prefer stand mixers for this particular activity. I'm going to keep beating it, and it will eventually come together, and I'll show you what that looks like. But at some point, it's going to look kind of like soup. So don't freak out. It will come together at some point. This has not yet come together, as you can see. So now it's time for a little troubleshooting. I've been beating it a long time. So if this is not soupy, so I'm not concerned about my having put the butter in too early. What I'm thinking is I may need a little bit extra butter today. That sometimes happens if you have larger eggs than usual, something like that. That the amount of butter you need needs to go up just a little bit. So I'm going to cut a few more tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to put in another 1/4 cup. But if you did put your butter in too early and it's super soupy at this point, then I would put it in the refrigerator. Go ahead and cool it for at least half hour, 45 minutes, and then try and beat it up again. If that doesn't work, you can cool it up to overnight, and it should eventually set up. It is possible to salvage it even if you accidentally put in your butter too early. Yeah. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. That's exactly the consistency you need. And now I'm going to add a dash of salt, just a little bit. Make sure you don't add too much salt at this point. You don't want to mess it up, but a little bit goes a long way. And there you go, Swiss Meringue Buttercream. It is amazing, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today, and we'll see you again next time. And let me just vent a little bit my frosting woes. So the first time I made a cake and frosted it, I made American buttercream. American buttercream, if you don't know, is based with butter or shortening or a combination of the two. And then you add a whole lot of powdered sugar and you thin it down a little bit with milk or something similar. I made it the first time and I followed the recipe very strictly, and I was really disappointed. I didn't like the taste at all. I frosted the cake with it thinking that it might taste better on the cake, and then I had a piece and I said, I don't even want this cake. I don't want to keep it. I gave it to a friend of mine, and a couple of friends of mine actually. It was kind of a big cake. I just said, you know what, I have this cake and I don't want it. So if you would like it, please take as much as you want. And the two girls took a whole bunch. I took a whole bunch home, and they told me that was amazing. That was the best I've ever had. So let me reassure you, those of you who use American buttercream, probably 90% of people like it. I don't care for it, and I'm in the minority 10%, I am aware. However, I thought to myself, maybe I just don't like buttercream at all. And then I saw a YouTube video, and she mentioned that she doesn't like American buttercream either. I thought to myself, really? Somebody else who agrees with me? That's amazing. And so I listened to what she had to say, and she said she loves Italian meringue buttercream. I have to try this, I thought to myself, and I came this close to trying, and then I chickened out the last minute, and I'll tell you why. You need two things that I did not have at the time. You need a candy thermometer, which I still don't have, and you need a stand mixer, which in between I've since gotten one, but I still haven't quite gotten up the guts to try it because I don't have a candy thermometer. So at some point I will make Italian meringue buttercream, but I discovered that you don't need either of those things to make Swiss meringue buttercream, which is supposed to taste very, very similar. So I thought to myself, okay, I will try the Swiss meringue buttercream and see if I can do it. And I made it. The first time I used a different recipe, and I did like it much better than American buttercream, but it tasted very strongly of butter. So I searched for another recipe, and I found this one. So, in case you're wondering what I did with all of the egg yolks, I was hungry. I made myself some scrambled eggs.